I was going through subreddits today on expat living. And as an expat who's lived in Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia for years, I have some expertise in this, and there was a young couple who announced that they were looking to move anywhere from the United States, anywhere, basically anywhere less hateful was the end of the headline that they had. And the presupposition, of course, here is the fact that this music teacher and social worker were on the left and find America to be incredibly hate-filled. And unfortunately, you are in for a rude awakening when you go visit the rest of the world. That is the sad reality. The fact is that if you go to Thailand and you find a Burmese worker, they're going to be treated very differently than the average Thai citizen. They have fewer rights. They're paid far less. They are considered second-class citizens. There is a tremendous amount of racism elsewhere in the world. If you go to Eastern Europe and you even mention the word gypsy, forget about it. They are persona non grata, perhaps for a reason. They have often been involved in many thefts and they live in squalor. At least that's the opinion of many Eastern Europeans. But there is racism against that group. If you go to Russia or Poland and you're black, you're not going to be nearly as welcome as you are in the United States. The United States is probably the least racist place that exists with a heterogeneous population. It's very easy if you are living in, say, Iceland, and everybody is related to each other because there's a lot of inbreeding there. Okay, that's a little bit over the line, perhaps, according to the Icelandic people, but it is the reality that if you look at the DNA of Icelandic people, it's going to be pretty similar. But if you go there, it is very homogenous. There aren't many people moving to Iceland to start their lives. There's not that much industry there. That is the sad case. If you look at Sweden, the socialist paradise, the liberal paradise of Sweden, and you look at the tensions that have become inflamed as they've had is movement of Syrians and other people from Islamic countries without the same values of the Swedes moving there, there is now far greater friction than in the past when it was just a theory as to how you would behave if somebody with different values came to your neighborhood. The fact is that in Malaysia, you have different rights if you are Islamic, if you are Muslim, you're preferred by the government. You get loans at cheaper rates. There are you can get government help more easily. That is actually systemic racism in some term, although we have to acknowledge the fact that being Muslim is not necessarily racial because it is not a race, it is a set of beliefs. But nevertheless, if you have a certain set of beliefs in Malaysia, you are a preferred citizen. The same is true around the world. No matter where you go, racism and hatred exist. There's a lot of enmity. If you go to the Balkan countries, there's still a lot of enmity towards Albanians. They fought wars against one another. What about politically stable, beautiful Africa? Let's see, you got the Congo, you got South Africa, you have Rwanda. Nothing bad ever happened in those places. Oh, wait, there was that pesky genocide of 1 million Rwandans who looked exactly alike, the Hutus and the Tutsis. 1 million were killed just because they belonged to a tribe, which you could only know if you knew their names because everybody looked pretty much the same. And China? What about glorious China that is slaughtering the Uyghur Muslim population in the West? Something that any sane person should be very much against. Harvesting their organs and shipping them to Saudi Arabia as halal products. Okay, I made up the halal part there, but that is the reality. The United States is probably, for all its wrongs, still the greatest country on the face of the earth. And all these people in the United States that show up to condemn systemic racism, which really doesn't exist except for in the form of affirmative action, which favors certain races to get into schools, you can't tell me that that is not systemic racism because it is actually deployed by the system by a set of codified laws that allow for it. And California, in fact, tried to abolish the Civil Rights Clause in its Constitution with a recent amendment in the last election that would have allowed for even more of this to take place in favor of minority citizens, black citizens specifically in all likelihood. But when you have millions of people show up at the rallies to decry systemic racism across America, maybe it's not that systemically racist a place. Maybe America is actually a pretty decent place. And yes, the vitriol and the divisiveness of America has increased mainly due to the left continually hitting people over the head, both literally and figuratively. That is the sad reality of today. But when I read posts like this, I just want to educate everybody else out there that America is freaking awesome in terms of racial harmony, especially given how heterogeneous and how diverse a nation we have become. And I want that really to sink in when people seek to go outside of America and think that they are going to find some utopia without hate, without enmity, because people are people all around the world. And when you have greater resources, when you have greater productivity, it actually allows for harmony because there's less competition to just stay alive. And when you have competition just for mere existence, then you find real reasons to go tribalistic, as opposed to America when it's all ideological. Peace and blessings to everybody out there. Hope that this video informed you a little bit. Have a fantastic, fantastic day.